If you've been paying very close attention, you'll notice that we've now switched from candidates for the degree to graduates of the class of 2015, that's when that moment has happened. So my job is to charge you as a class of 2015 to give you one last message before you go on your way. The charge is aimed at the graduates. It speaks particularly to their experience, but let me say to all of you who are here who supported these graduates, thank you for making them who they are. Thank you for supporting them, and thank you for sharing them with us. They're inspiring and funny and skilled and kind and smart and charming and memorable and wise all at once. We've been privileged to teach them, and we're bursting with pride to call them our own. To you graduates of 2015, this is the third charge I've written for a graduating class, and I have to confess it's been the hardest one by far. One reason is that most of you JD students sitting out there feel like classmates to me. We started together. We came to Stanford Law in 2012 at the same time, and we learned about this place together. Most of us had not yet heard the bizarre acronyms that pepper the Stanford vocabulary. We knew nothing about law talk and its ways. We had not yet learned to find a room when it might be in 3 different buildings. Room 230, is that the second floor of the Newcomb building, the second floor of the library building, or the second floor of the classroom building? We didn't know about open mic night. We didn't know about blizzards of emails that food was available outside room 290. And most of us knew nothing about the Stanford Band. I still don't know anything about the Stanford Band. I don't know about you all, but innovative and entrepreneurial and space, as in I'm working in this space, were not words that I'd used much. Together, we went from initiates to pros. I have relished these 3 years that I've gotten to spend with part of the JD class. Because we came up together, it was especially bittersweet for me to see you walk across the stage today. But it's also the hardest one because, as a lot of the speakers have already made clear, it's just been a really hard year. We live in a world that has a lot of challenges. We worry about the future viability of our planet. We worry about the ways in which we fail to treat each other with dignity and respect based on our differences. And we worry about the vastly different life chances of those of us with luck and privilege and those of us without it. All of these challenges, I think, have seen much more present in the last few years, and that's certainly true at campuses nationwide. Campuses have had deep conflicts over politics, obligations to future generations, morality, human rights, sexual identity, racial prejudice, sexual assault. But however hard this year has been, I think it's been a really hard year to be a student of the legal system and the legal process, and to be learning how to be a lawyer. All of you came to law school with some optimism about the promise of law and the legal system. I read enough admission files to know that. But for many of you sitting here today, that faith has been shaken, deeply so, by what you've seen and what you've experienced, especially the role that racial prejudice and collective indifference play in the lives of so many people of color and in the cruelty and the brutality of our criminal justice system. So I actually want to talk, I promise, just for a few minutes about what to do if and when your faith gets shaken. You all have ambitions for what you want to contribute in your careers and in the communities you live in and in the world. What do you do if you lose faith that you can accomplish what you hope? Some of you have felt that this year and wondered whether you should be doing what you're doing. That's not been all of you, but I suspect that many of you are likely to face at some point in your life a period where it seems like the career or the community or the world that you would like is not to be. And you'll wonder, why are you doing what you're doing? I confess that I can hear my 89-year-old mother saying, but Lizzie, that's a really bummer of a topic. But stay with me. I think I have some ideas and I hope some inspiration that comes from you. The first and most important imperative, I think, is obvious if sometimes hard to do. Engage. It's difficult, but you've got to get yourself to act. There are many ways to do it. You can participate, you can advocate for change, you can lead, and given your education, you possess an incredible set of tools and a way of thinking that allow you to act. And really, what choice do you have? It might help to think about the many who came before you who engaged when it probably seemed hopeless. Think about Justice Ginsburg and O'Connor. Both offered jobs as legal secretaries when they graduated from law school. Think of the brave and brilliant lawyers who systematically attacked state-sponsored racial segregation. And there are many examples today of people who find it in themselves to engage in the face of what feel like overwhelming odds. I was just reading about our graduate, Afam Onyema, who runs a nonprofit aimed at getting life-changing medical care to Nigerians. Nigeria happens to be one of the worst places in the world, statistically speaking, to be born because of the state of basic medical care. His goal is to build state-of-the-art medicine in his country. For now, he's running a nonprofit that does medical missions and maternal and child health programs, and they make progress 10, 20, 30 patients at a time. Maybe these examples seem daunting to you because they seem like 1 in a million individuals. But can you all think of someone who's not so larger than life, someone who's engaged and made everyone around them better off? I say take a lesson from them. The second idea is to find community, to find a connection with others. In looking for an inspiration for a speech that is actually called a charge, I have been reading about the military history of the charge. That is, when troops rush an enemy to overcome them. The charge has an interesting history that I promise I will not go into. It goes at least back to the Greeks and their phalanx that marched in an ordered way and then ran at the end. There are lots of strategies, head on, around the side, from behind, and there are many tools, historically, the bayonet, the bow, the cavalry. But at its most basic level, the charge requires a group with a shared goal, working together to accomplish a mission. For you, it could be a community of 2 or 5 or 7, or it could be a movement of thousands. It will help you achieve what you want to achieve, and more than that, it will support and it will nourish you. My third thought is change the question. If you lose hope, look again at the problem. Is there another way of understanding it? Can you figure out a different piece of it to make progress on? I think we've all had the experience of beating our head against a wall, failing to find a solution, and then we change something. We talk to someone new. We alter the focus. We learn of an unusual example. We ask the opposite question, and something emerges. My favorite example of this comes from modern medicine and actually migraine medications. The headache, it was long thought, was caused by blood vessels constricting, and therefore medications to relieve headaches were aimed at dilating your blood vessels. It turns out migraines seem to work in the opposite way. Someone decided to try medications as a treatment that constricted the blood vessels, and the modern and quite revolutionary migraine medication was born. So if your faith is shaken, if you worry that it's not worth working for what you seek, stay engaged, create your own phalanx, and take another look at what you're after. And here's the inspiration. You have done every single one of these things many times over since you got here. That's why I said, stay with me on this topic. Let me remind you of something I say at every orientation. I told you that we had searched far and wide for you, and we worked really hard to convince you to join us because we really care about who joins the community of Stanford Law. Why? Well, we want to teach you, but we also know that you are going to teach us and that you are going to change us. Stanford Law is a collective enterprise. It's true, some members of the collective enterprise are permanent residents, but the ever-changing group of students are anchor tenants too. In your time here, you have engaged like mad. You have created a community worthy of charging the field. And you have taken a third and fourth and fifth look at everything. Some of you have taken these actions in the face of a real crisis of faith in the legal system of which you are planning to become a part. You helped hold the die-in December. You helped hold an incredible My Life Matters event, and you facilitated countless conversations in classrooms and community rooms. You have founded new organizations, you have held conferences, you created a new journal, you traveled overseas to compete and learn. Your interests have led to new classes, new policy labs, new reading groups, and new initiatives. You've created new social events for your class to bond with one another and new service events for your class to do good and also bond with one another. When you joined us, I promised you, we picked you because we knew you would change us for the better. And you have. So if your faith is shaken, just remember what you did as a class during your time here and use that as your model. Keep doing what you've been doing. We know you will. Now I just want to say, get to it. That's the end of our ceremony. But first, let me make the last announcement about food that you're going to hear at Stanford Law School. After we process out together, please join us in the Law Lounge in Crocker Garden for a reception with graduates and family and friends. Congratulations, class of 2015.